When I just started using Revit, wall location line was one of the topics that I was struggling with the most. And I feel like we never have enough time to discuss this topic in class, so I thought I'd make a video for this. Hi, I'm Pisan. If you are a student or an architect who is looking to learn or have a better understanding of how to use Revit, I hope that you find this video helpful. Before we can start talking about wall location line, let's talk about how wall location lines are determined. So what you see here is one of the wall that I just pull out from the default template. Now if I open it up and see the wall assembly, you will be able to see the entire wall assemblies from layer 1 to layer 9. Okay, so exterior side is on top and the interior side is on the bottom. The finished materials on the inside is the gypsum and the finished materials on the exterior is EIFS. And layer 5 and layer 7 is the non-materials layer. It just determines where the core boundary is. So over here on layer 5, that is the space between layer 4, which is the plywood, and layer 6, which is the metal stud. So layer 5 right now, basically, it is a core boundary. It is where layer 4 and layer 6 meet. Okay, and since it is closer to the exterior side, it is a core face exterior. With layer 7 is between layer 6 and layer 8. Layer 6 is metal stud and layer 8 is vapor retarder. So where the two material meets, that makes it the core boundary. And since it is closest to the interior side of the wall, this is the core face interior. To determine where wall center line is, basically it's halfway between the outermost finish of the exterior and the outermost finished surface on the interior side. So if you combine all these thicknesses and divide it by 2, that will give you the location of the wall center line. Now we already talked about how the core face is determined. So if we decided for some reason that we want to include the plywood sheathing as part of the core, we can just click on layer 4 and then move it down. Okay, so if you move it downward, notice that layer 4 is now the core boundary. Then the core finish exterior just shifted by 3/4 of an inch. In this case, if we take 6 inches plus 3¼ inch and divide it by 2, that will determine the core center line. Let me undo what I just did. Now we're back to where we were just a minute ago. Now let us compare the graphical representation of the wall assembly that we were just looking at. So orange highlighted is metal stud layer. So the top surface of the orange is core face, and since it is closest to the exterior, it is the core face exterior. Now the bottom face of the orange, again, that is the core face, and since it is closest to the interior, it is the core face interior. Now if you take the total thickness of the orange divided by 2, that will determine the core center line. Back to the example that I gave you earlier, if we were to include the plywood, this little white area here, that is the plywood, if we were to include that as part of the core, that surface now will be the core face exterior. The core face exterior will just shift up 3/4 of an inch. And the core center line will just have to include that 3/4 inch to the total thickness of the metal stud. The outermost finish of the gypsum is finished face interior, and the outermost finish of the EIFS is finished face exterior. If you combine the thicknesses of all of the materials, basically you will get the distance between these two surfaces. And if you take the total distance between these two surfaces and divide it by 2, you will end up with the wall center line. I think we're now ready to discuss wall location line. So what is wall location line? Wall location line is what Revit uses as an anchor point along the length of the wall. The wall that you see on the screen right now has wall location line assigned to core face exterior, and the green line that you see is aligned and locked to core face exterior. You can tell where the wall location line is by selecting the wall, and you should see the two dots. If you connect that two dots, that gives you a line, and that line is wall location line. Now, what did I mean by anchor point? If some point in time you have to change the wall assembly, or if you have to modify the wall assembly's thickness, that location line will stay in place while everything else changes. So let's see that example. I'm going to change the wall type. You see that the wall location lines stay in place. The two dots stay aligned with the green line that I placed there, while the wall assembly changes. Let's see another example. You can see that the wall assembly changes, as well as some material thicknesses. Still on the anchor point topic, if we decided to flip the interior size to the exteriors and vice versa, the anchor point stay anchored as well. Like so. Now, let's see how the wall will behave if we change the wall location line. The wall that you see on the screen now has the wall location line at finished face exterior. Again, you can tell by these two dots. Now I'm going to flip the wall. Notice where the core face exterior is at the moment. And if we flip the wall, this is what happened. Everything flips to the other side, including all of the wall location lines. So why is wall location line important? It is important because the reason why we use Revit is because we want to produce a precise, scalable drawings. And since we have to dimension it, the best place to dimension is to the assigned location line. And here's why. The example that you see on the screen right now, we have two walls, the left and the right. For those two walls, I have wall location line set at core face exterior. And that is because I want my final dimension to be two faces of stud. And that makes sense to me because in construction, we always place the stud before all the finishes. Now, if for some reason changes need to be made to one of the wall, say we want to change the exterior finish of this wall to just a simple stucco, I can just change the wall type without affecting the dimension. Of course, the core face exterior stay at the same location, but the other wall location lines shifted based on the new wall type. Now let's see what happened if we carelessly assign wall location to any of our walls. On the example you see on the screen right now, the wall location line is set to wall center line. Since wall center line is a default location line, most of us who just started using Revit will leave that as is. And then when it comes time to place dimension, we will dimension to face of stud because that's what makes sense. Now let's see what happened if the same scenario were to happen again. The wall to the right need to change to just a simple stucco wall. You can see that the dimension changes. That is because the wall location line was set to center of wall, and that is the anchor point. Therefore, core face exterior shifted 2 inches to the right. Hopefully now you're starting to see why it is important to carefully assign wall location line to your walls. Now let's take a look at another example. Say you're using Revit during design development. At this point, you don't really know what type of walls or what type of finishes you want to assign to these walls yet. So you went ahead and used generic. With generic, there's only one material. So core face exterior and finish face exterior is the same line. Same as core face interior and finish face interior is the same line. And lastly, wall center line and core center line or center of core is the same. And later on you have finalized your design. In this case, I have the wall location line assigned to all 4 walls at finish face exterior. Now it is time to finalize your design and assign wall assemblies to all these 4 walls. You have decided that the final dimension from stud to stud is going to be 6 feet. Now let's see what happens if we change the wall type. Now you can see that dimension stays the same at 6 feet 0 inches, while faces of stud shifted toward the center. Now this is the problem because that's not the final dimension that we want. Now what we have to do to fix this is to get rid of this dimension and redimension it again. This time to face of stud, and then you will correct the dimension. Notice that I haven't changed the wall location line. I just adjusted the dimension. Now let's see if for some reason again changes need to be made to the wall to the right. You see that the dimension shifted again. So without understanding what wall location line is or what it does, this becomes a never-ending cycle. In my own practice, I would use core face exterior the most. Now the follow-up question is, what if this is an interior walls? What would you use, core face interior or core face exterior? For that, I have 2 answers for you. If your interior walls has finishes on both sides that are the same, then it doesn't really matter if you use core face exterior or core face interior. You have to be your own judge. Based on the shape of the room, based on where you can see yourself dimension to that wall later on in the future, or which side of the wall is going to stay in place if changes need to be made to the wall. Now, what if the interior wall has finishes on both sides that are not the same? Again, you have to be your own judge. For example, if one side of the wall is the corridor and the other side of the wall is the bathroom, then you'll most likely have a gypsum wall on one side and a tile wall on the other side. In this case, you still need to be your own judge again. Which wall is the most important to you? Which dimension do you want to control? If on the bathroom side, you want to control the clearance for the toilet, then you might want the wall location line to be placed on the core face that is closest to the bathroom side. Unfortunately, there's no one-size-fits-all answer to this. You have to be your own judge. But with your understanding of what wall location line is and what it does, you can make an informed decision the next time you assign the wall location line to your walls. Finally, I hope that this video helped you understand Revit a little better and therefore feel more comfortable using it. I will be making another video about reference plane and work plane. I will see you in the next video.